Join me in learning Chumash for Monday, Parshas Tzav. Yesterday's Torah reading, we learned about the obligation of cleaning off the altar of its ashes, as well as learning about the meal offerings, that it was not allowed to become chametz, and its holiness, that it had to be eaten only in the courtyard of the Holy Temple. Today we continue with the laws pertaining to a meal offering and the obligatory offerings that the Kohanim had to bring. Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe Lamer, and God spoke to Moses, saying, verse 13, Zeh korban Aaron uvanav, this is the sacrifice, the offering of Aaron and his descendants, asher yakrivu Hashem, that they will bring to God, b'yoyim himashachayse, on the day of their being anointed, asir se'efa, it will be 1/10 of an ephah of seilus mincha, of fine flour, tamid as a perpetual offering. Machatzisa ba'beker, they would bring half of it in the morning, umachatzisa ba'erev, and half of it in the evening. What kind of offering? What are we referring to? Zeh korban Aaron uvanav, Rashi says, anytime a Kohen was inaugurated to work, he would then bring a meal offering which was of the value of 1/10 of an ephah. Avol Kohen Gadol, the high priest, b'chol yoyim, every single day he had to bring a meal offering. Shnemer, as it says, mincha tamid v'kohen Mashiach tachtav mibanav chok olam, because it says he would have to bring a meal offering, and then it would say the anointed Kohen will only have to bring it the day and the afternoon. That means a regular Kohen. That means the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, he would have to bring every single day a meal offering as well. The Torah now tells us what more details into this meal offering. Al machavas b'shem, and how would they make this meal offering? Al machavas b'shem, and it must be made in oil in a frying pan. Te'asa, it should be made. Mirubeches, then afterwards it would be dropped into hot water and it would be scalded by hot water. Tiviena, that's the way you should bring it. Tefune minchas pitim. It will then make this, after you scald it, and then you bake it into the oven, tefine. And the minchas pitim, you break it up into different pieces, as we'll soon see. Rashi explains how it was broken. Takrav, you should bring it reich nechayach l'Hashem, as a pleasing offering to Hashem. Merubeches, the word merubeches means chaluta bereischin kol tzarcha. You would drop it into the hot water and it would cook it and boil it right away quickly. Tefune means afuya was baked, afiyas harbi, many times. Achar chalitasa, after you threw it into the water, you then put it into the oven. And then afterwards you would boil it. So it had over here three things. Number one, you boiled it in water. Number two, that it was baked in an oven. And number three, that it was fried in a pan. Minchas pitim. Melamid shetuna psisa means that you got to break it up into pieces. Verse 15. And the Kohen who was then anointed from his sons after him. Mibanav of his sons. Yasa Isa will do this as well. Chok olam, this is an eternal allotment. LaHashem to Hashem. Kolil toktar, all of it must be burned up. They did not get to enjoy any of this, as we mentioned previously. The mincha of a Kohen was all consumed on the altar. Hamashiach tachtav mibanav, meaning Hamashiach, even the Kohen who's anointed. Mibanav tachtav, that means that from his children one gets appointed as well. Kolil toktar eina nikmetzes liyashira necholin. This meal offering is not like the one of the Israelite, that only the fistful goes onto the altar and the leftovers go to the Kohen. But over here, kalil, kula, kalil, all of it gets burnt on the altar. Kain, b'kol, minchas kenshel, nadava, kol tia, any kind of meal offering of a Kohen, all of it gets, even the ones that they are not obligated to bring, even the ones of a donation, get completely consumed on the altar. Verse 16. V'chol minchas kohen kalil tia l'seyachel, and all grain offerings brought by a priest must be holy and must be completely burned up. No part of it, no part of it may be eaten. Kalil means shekula l'shavlik vaya, all of it goes to God. Verse 17. Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe Lamer, and God spoke to Moshe, saying, now we're going back to what we started with the sin offering in the previous Torah reading as well. Daber alad and Valbanav, speak to Aaron and his sons. These are the laws pertaining to sin offering. The place where the place where you slaughter the ascent offering, tishachat achatas, the sin offering will be slaughtered as well. Lifnei Hashem, in front of God, kodesh kodashim, it is very holy. Verse 19. The Kohen, who is the one that's fit to bring up the sin offering, Yechelena, he will eat b'makim kaddish teyachal. He will eat it in a holy place. What's the holy place? B'chatzar oyel moed, in the tent, in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. Rashi, Hamachata Yisa Uvid Avidasa, the one who does the work. Shehi Nasa Chatas Al Yadi, that he becomes now a sin offering because the Kohen that's doing it. Hamachata Yisa Yechelena, meaning it doesn't mean necessarily the one that actually did the work is the one that has to eat it. It means he's the one that's fit for working. This excludes a person who may have been impure while they were sprinkling the blood, that he cannot have, he's not entitled to any of the meat of that sacrifice. Why? Because he was not able to sprinkle the blood. That means he was not worthy of working, of actually bringing that sacrifice. Therefore, he's not entitled to any part of the sacrifice. It can be that you're prohibiting any other Kohen to eat it, because we previously said that every male of the Kohen is allowed to eat and enjoy the sacrifice. Therefore, when it says over here, only the Kohen who sprinkles the blood, means a Kohen who is fit and able to sprinkle the blood. Verse 20. Whoever touches its flesh, Yigdash becomes holy. And if somebody sprinkles from the blood, and because of that the blood gets on his clothing, they should wash it off b'makim kaddish in a holy place. Rashi, anything, any food item that may touch the flesh of the sin offering while it's still hot, or the person may swallow anything from it, and therefore he has in it the taste of flesh, Yikdash, it becomes just as holy. The food that touches it becomes just as holy. And if imsula, if the sin offering is pasul, pasul would also become unfit and not allowed to be eaten. However, if it was kosher, you'll have to eat it with all the stringencies that are required with eating the sin offering. For example, that it has to be eaten in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. You can't leave it overnight, and as well as on all the other prohibitions. What happens if some blood got onto his clothing? Behuza midama labeged, the meaning not intentionally, something happened that it got on his blood. He has to make sure to wash off the blood of that sprinkling that got himself dirty, not take it home and put it in his washing machine, but in the actual azar, in the actual courtyard, he has to wash off the blood from his garment. Asher yaza yehi niza, that he became sprinkled with. Verse 21. So too will apply with an earthenware vessel in which it was cooked. If the sacrifice was cooked in it, Yeshavar would have to be broken. If it was cooked in a copper, Mushala was cooked, all you have to do is wash it out. V'shutaf b'mayim, you expunge it you purge it by rinsing it with, first purging it in boiling water and then rinsing it in cold water. Rashi, Yeshavar, why do you have to break this earthenware item? Because now the taste of the flesh was absorbed into this item. Nasa Naisar, and then after tomorrow you still have an absorption of the meat of a sacrifice that's in here, and it's already after the time when the sacrifice is allowed to be eaten, so therefore you have to break the vessel. This would apply to any of the holy items of the sacrifices, that once the taste gets absorbed into the vessel itself becomes prohibited as well. However, when it comes to a metal vessel, which that you can purge the taste from, loshin, that he washes it off well, like tamruki anoshim, ishkirament belaz. Moirak v'shutav, livlitas b'liyaseh. First, what he does is he has to purge it from the taste of it in hot water. Then afterward, aval klicheres. When it comes to an earthenware vessel, the medcha akasav, the verse tells us she'ena yetzim dafila ilam, that you can never purge a taste from an earthenware vessel, and that's why until today, when it comes to the laws of kosher, an earthenware vessel cannot be koshered. However, a metal vessel, we first boil it in hot water and afterwards put it in cold water as well. Verse 22. Every male amongst the Kohanim are allowed to eat from the sacrifice. Kodesh Kadashim, it's considered very holy. What does it teach us? This is back to Rashi's proving his point when it said that the Kohen sprinkles it. He does not have to be the only one can eat it, but as long as you're able to, because as it says over here, all male Kohanim can eat it. And therefore, when it said before the one who sprinkles it, was not to exclude all the other Kohanim. It was only to exclude one who does not have the ability to sprinkle because he may be impure. Verse 23, any sin offering that some of its blood may have mistakenly brought into the tent of meeting, into the tent of meeting, to atone in the holiness, automatically now that animal renders that animal something that cannot be eaten, and it has to be burnt in a fire. Rashi. That if mistakenly a person brought in the blood from the external, that means it was supposed to be on the outside altar, and he brought the blood inside, it's not a valid animal, and it has to be burnt. All Rabbi Sharkashim comes to include any kind of animal, whether it's something which is a high level of holiness or not the highest level. Both of these cases, if the blood is brought inside and sprinkled on the inner altar, it renders the animal invalid. Chapter 7, verse 1. This is the laws pertaining the guilt offering. Kodesh Kadashim hi, they carry a superior holiness. Rashi, Kodesh Kadashim hi, Hu karev, meaning when it's so holy that it has to be brought up as a sacrifice. Ve'eint murase karev, you cannot switch it off for a different animal. Verse 2. In the same place that they would bring and sacrifice the scent offering, that's where they would slaughter the guilt offering. And its blood will then be sprinkled and circled by the altar. Yishchatu, ribolanu shchitas harbe. Why does it say multiple, like in plural? Telling us, this is telling us over here, and it's telling us in the other places where it was done in the north of the altar, whatever it may be, that the Torah is telling us that even by the ascent offering, when a person brings the communal offering, it was also done in the north of the altar. Verse 3. And he has to bring all its fats with it. As alya, the tail, chelev, and also too the fat that's covering the innards, all of it was brought up on the altar. Rashi v'skol chelbei ad kanlein nisparshu emurin ba'asham, being that up until now he has never yet detailed the different limbs of the guilt offering, what has brought and what's not. Therefore he has to explain it in detail here. However, the sin offering for nisparshu b'parshas v'yikra was already explained in the previous Torah reading. Esa alya, the tail, because the asham offering is the guilt offering can only be either from a ram or a sheep. And both of these sheep and the ram, nisrabu alya, were added bonus that it was being brought on the altar was the tail as well. Verse 4. And the two kidneys, and the fats that's on them, that's on the planks, and the diaphragm that's on the liver, and the kidneys, all have to be removed. Verse 5, and the kohen will then bring them onto the altar. Isha Lashem, the fire for God, Oshamu, this is a guilt offering. What does it mean? This is a guilt offering. So as the Torah says, until his name becomes completely detached from it. Limed, what does the Torah teach us? Al Oshim Shemesu Bolov, Oishin Iskapru Bolov. The Torah is telling us that what about a guilt offering that the owners already died, or they already forgiven for what it may be? So you may say, what would be the purpose? Even though, still in all, what they would do is they would give it to a shepherd. He would then let it go and allow it to get a blemish, and then they would sell it and buy with it an ascent offering. And they would use that ascent offering for when nothing was burning on the altar. They used that as well. However, they didn't wait, and the owners did not wait until a mum had it. And they just slaughtered it the way it was. Wouldn't be fit for an ola offering because koidam shenitak, when we're talking about here, that when he slaughtered it, it's talking about that koydem shanita klariya, that they took it away and they gave it for a shepherd to be able to let it pasture and let it get on its own a blemish and then sell it and use the money to buy an scent offering. It's not coming to tell me about the guilt offering that it should be unfit when it was done not for the proper intent, because that we already learned from the verse when it told us about the sin offering. Being that it only says that it's a guilt offering after it was already brought. So from here I know that even if he himself didn't bring it and he didn't bring the limbs with the intent of thinking that it's a guilt offering, the owners are still forgiven for it, and it's still considered kosher. Verse 6. All the male Kohanes are allowed to eat it. But Makim Kaddish, in a holy place, a yachal, it should be eaten. Kodesh Kadashim, it's considered very holy. Kodesh Kadashim, Toras Kahanim, and in Toras Kahanim, it explains this more in detail. Verse 7. Just like the sin offering and just like the guilt offering. This is all one law. This is one, have the same regulations. The Kohen, the one that brings the actual sacrifice, he gets to keep the sacrifice. And he's the one that has to eat it. What does it mean? But Dover Zen, this thing, the Kohen, who is the one bringing the sacrifice, doesn't mean that he himself, as we mentioned before, the one that's befitting to be able to bring the sacrifice, is also entitled to have a part of it. Prat, this comes to exclude a person who is impure for that day, or a person who has not yet brought all the proper sacrifices to be atoned, or a person who lost a family member. All these people are not able to bring the sacrifice, therefore they're not able to participate in it as well. Verse 8. So too, any Kohen who offers the person's a scent offering, another gift that the Kohen gets is that he's able to get the hide of any scent offering that the Kohen, that he offers up and receives a portion from it. Rashi, this excludes a person who is unfit to be able to bring it, like we just mentioned before, a person who is impure, he hasn't yet done the things for an atonement, or a person who lost a family member, that they are not able to bring a sacrifice, therefore they do not get a part of this division of the sacrifice. And the Kohen gets to keep the hide of the animal. Verse 9. Any grain offering that has been baked in an oven, or anything that was made in a deep frying pan, aval machavas, or in a regular shallow frying pan, hamakrivais, the one who brings it, loitia is the one that keeps it. Verse 9, Rashi. I would think that he gets it all on his own to eat. That it goes to all the Kohanim. Lekul, I would think you give it to everybody clearly. Therefore the Kohen says to the one who brings it. Okay, it's that. How can I give it to everybody and only give it to the Kohen who brings it at the same time? The base of it goes to, there was every single day the families in the Holy Temple rotated who would be in charge. So you would give it to the leader of that family, would be responsible of splitting it up, dividing it according to how each family got their position and when they were working in the Holy Temple. Verse 10. The chol mincha blul of Hashem, and every meal offering that was mixed with oil, v'chareva, or to be dry, like referring to a grain offering of a sinner, which did not have the oil, and oil was not added to. Still, in all the chol b'nei Aaron, they would get, this would belong to all the sons of Aaron. Tia ishka achiv, each individual would, Kohen would get a portion like the other. Nobody got more than another person. Rashi, blula b'shemen, zu minchas nedava. What's mixed with oil? That's a donation meal offering. V'charev is a minchas chayta. That's a sin offering, or minchas knoyes, or one which was used by a sota, she'ein ban shemen, that there is no oil by it. This concludes the second Torah reading for Parshas Tzav.